Hold on for a second. What's up, YouTube family? I would like you guys to make sure you like and subscribe to our video. It would help us get into the algorithms so we could be seen and bring more engaging content to you guys. So like I said, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Appreciate you. Welcome to another edition of the Pick and Dimes podcast. I'm your host, per usual, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and Peebush. How you fellas doing?
I'm doing well, man. I was just telling the guys, riding that Thunder train right now against Luka Doncic. Man. I mean, I was watching that game. What it came down to in the end, Zoo, betting on live Thunder, was who was going to have the better closeout. And after watching how Doncic kept playing, man, versus SGA, I was siding with the SGA side, shooting above 50%, doing pretty much everything. And Zoo and I were texting last night, man, just unstoppable was the adjective that we decided to use, man. Mm-hmm. This playoffs,
man.
He's been on one.
All I got to do is I have to shout out this past week all the MVP candidates, because Jokic with the huge bounce back, especially the last two games, and reclaiming dominance in the series, tying the series up at 2-2, and he's been playing. He's been on a tear, especially Game 4. That man was like, I'm going to get buckets. So his mindset completely changed from being the pass first guy to a score first guy. And SGA, like, these guys are the 1 and 2 MVP candidates. And SGA, man, like, I want to see this guy produce in the playoffs, because he hasn't had the opportunity of being the go-to guy in the playoffs. But nothing has changed. Regular season, postseason, same stats, man. This guy's putting up 30 points a game at mid-range assassin. Got all these moves in the paint. Like, SGA is showing that he could be the alpha, the number one option on a championship team roster. And he is proving it right now against another former MVP candidate and Luka Doncic, who's going the other way compared to Jokic and SGA. That's all I got to say. Going the other way right now.
Yep.
Well, the one thing I'm kind of excited for is we potentially could have 3 Game 7s.
Very true.
And if you maybe asked me that last pod, I would have been like, nah, maybe we'll get one series with Game 7. But it looks like potentially, there's certain series is kind of trending in a bad direction for some, especially in the Eastern Conference. But I will say, if we do get 3 Game 7s, that's going to be pretty dope. And I'm sure Adam Silver's going to be happy that that's happening right as they're negotiating for their new deal, which is probably already done. But I think that's perfect timing. That's perfect timing.
NBC coming in hot with the big bag for the NBA.
Yes, they are.
Bring it back.
Expect Scott Foster to be making some interesting calls these next couple games, boys.
Yeah, I think Adam is trying to get these series to go 7. So we're going to start off with the NBA playoffs again. I'm going to let the guys kind of pick a direction that they want to go in. Peebush, you take it wherever you want to go with the series.
Man, I'm going to start with a series that I think we both, I guess we'll get the Celtics Cavs out of the way, man. Once Donovan Mitchell missed Game 4, that was pretty much it.
They put up a fight. I got to give them credit. They put up a fight. Like, they did. Darius Garland played pretty well. Like, Caris LeVert came in the starting lineup. I got to give him credit, because it could have easily been a 20-point blowout. Like, the spread was over 11.5. So Vegas didn't have much respect for the Cavs, but it was a game.
I had a little parlay, man. Plus 8.5 on the Cavs and Nuggets money line. Woo, that was a close call, man. Absolutely beautiful. But to your point, shout out Darius Garland. He had a 30-piece, man. Evan Mobley. Sean, I got to shout you out. I think you said it last game that the only way the Cavs were going to have any chance in this series was if Mobley went nuclear. The one game they did win, he had a great game. And, I think that he is a key cornerstone for this team going forward. Whether or not they can continue with this Garland-Mitchell combination, if that's completely ideal, we'll have to see. But I'm going to jump over to the other Eastern Conference series, man. Game 3, the Pacers fans and Pacers organization finally got what they've been waiting for, man. A 35-piece from Tyrese Halliburton. It's about damn time. He needed to have a big game, and he got huge help with Siakam and Miles Turner both putting up 20-plus in Game 3. Huge. I mean, Siakam just the slasher himself, man. Honestly, I was also extremely impressed with the defense of the Pacers. I thought they just completely shut down Brunson. To your point again, Sean, you said, I want to see what the Knicks are like when he has off games. Well, they've lost the last 2. So, Dante DiVincenzo in Game 3, he tried his best, man. He went 7 for 11 from 3, but he still shot under 50%, which is sad because that shows his interior percentage was extremely bad compared to shooting, what is that, above nearly 65% from three. So, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. Shooting by the best team in the playoffs, 3-point shooting, which has been the Knicks. And they live and die by it, man. So we're seeing a tied up series. Shout out TJ McConnell, man. Another guy we've talked about as being a solid backup point guard that can really contribute to a lot of these teams that put their faith in stars. You need guys off the bench that can give you 12 points and 5 assists, only playing 15 to 20 minutes. I mean, that is absolutely pivotal for a young team where their most tenured guy and experienced guy, you could say it's Siakam. I'm going to say it's Miles Turner. He's just been with the organization his whole career. So I'm very interested to see how this game goes tonight. I think the Knicks still squeeze it through in 7. But Anunoby out for game 5, man. Out for game 5. He is, I'm sorry, man, but Precious Achiuwa, I think you said I don't want to see him play.
No.
He does not belong in an NBA starting lineup. No hate. He maybe deserves to be on a bench, but not in the starting lineup. So Thibodeau's got to come up with some scheme tonight to really solidify their home court and get back to the Indy up 3-2.
Yeah, because like I said, the hamstrings of OG Anunoby might decide this entire series. Because the minute OG left the game and was hobbling off, I'm like, okay, Knicks are in trouble. Because I had the Knicks in 6 against the Pacers, and I was extremely confident that they were going to get it done against the Pacers team. But with OG Anunoby out, and the way Thibodeau uses his rotation, like this guy barely uses 7 dudes, like 8 at the max, but the last dude probably like playing less than 5 minutes. So he probably uses 7 guys. And you're losing a guy that's a two-way player that knows Pascal Siakam well because they were teammates and can match him athletically and lengthwise. You're downgrading from that to another former teammate in Precious Achiuwa, but this dude is just not as good at anything, especially offensively. He's a very limited offensive player, can't shoot the 3. So right now, Hartenstein, Precious Achiuwa as your front court right now, that ain't going to get it done. Like, I love Hartenstein's little floater teardrop, but Anunoby was the key, was the glue for this roster and just made everything fit together. And losing it, I'm like they got to get Jericho Sims minutes now. That dude is awful. Jericho Sims, I remember that dude is just an atrocity in the dunk contest, but he's also an atrocity in real life basketball because this dude just looks like he doesn't know what's going on out there. And obviously it's because he doesn't get any minutes at all. And they're putting a guy in Alec Burks, who I actually kind of liked. I like Alec Burks. He's a veteran.
He had a nice game. He was the only one scoring in game 4.
He's like he's your stereotypical off the bench like scorer guy. I'm surprised Thibodeau hasn't used this guy. So Alec Burks is actually quite a good rotation guy that they could try to replace some of that OG Anunoby scoring. But the prowess of having a two-way guy in Anunoby and relying on Brunson while Brunson has a foot issue and fatigue will hit with these guys. Like Josh Hart, this dude is playing close to 48 minutes a game right now, ridiculous. And the dude is playing at a ridiculous pace. Like, not only is he playing high minutes, during those minutes, he's running fast breaks. He's passing. He's going for offensive rebounds. This dude's getting Dennis Rodman type rebounds, like 15-plus rebounds. So there is so much you could do as a basketball player, and playing that high energy with that high of minutes, eventually your body is going to get fatigued and go down. And the longer the series goes, the better it is for the Indiana Pacers, because the Indiana Pacers, they're not top heavy. I think their starting lineup ain't that great, but they got a nice little bench, that very complimentary bench, because you can say like Obi Toppin, TJ McConnell, like Shepard, like these guys, like nice little bench rotation, and they don't have to rely on their starters as much as the New York Knicks and especially Thibodeau-led team. So the longer the series goes and the way they push the pace just to tire out the Knicks, because that's what if I'm Rick Carlisle, run as fast as possible.
By the way.
Yeah, Rick Carlisle, I don't know, he started complaining about the refs, and that was a weak move, blaming the refs for those losses.
True.
Like, next time, try to start TJ McConnell or play TJ McConnell a couple more minutes. Maybe you would have won that game. So blame yourself first before you blame the refs in that situation. But they made some adjustments in their game plan, and right now the fatigue that's hitting Brunson, like Brunson putting up 40 points a game, like that's unsustainable. Only guys like Michael Jordan could do that. So you cannot be asking Jalen Brunson to paying 40 minutes and dropping 40 points and be the lead playmaker. That is unreasonable. Like you don't ask guys about like Luka, like the Luka Doncic and SGA Jokic can't even put up 40 points and leading the team in assists. So asking a guy in a 6'2" point guard and Jalen Brunson with an injured foot, that is completely unreasonable. And he had to put up those performances to barely win those first couple games. And now you're down a wing, and that production is going to go down. Like you said, man, it's going to be living and dying by the 3. And Dante DiVincenzo, man, that could get really hot or really cold.
Yeah, but it's about to be a regression to the mean.
Exactly. It's going to be on his shoulders on it. The Knicks could get it done offensively because I think they're going to struggle extremely bad offensively with OG Anunoby out. So I'm pivoting more towards Pacers now after the significant injury. I was 100% Knicks, but after the OG Anunoby injury, I am out on the Knickerbockers. And it's
in 6 or 7, you think?
I think in 7. I think another miracle can happen. Yeah, I think another miracle can happen, but God, they already I think they might be out of miracles with that 76ers series. That was a miracle. And now this series. So, yeah.
I was just going to say, the only thing I think I do have the game up here on the side so I can keep any live updates going with this Pacers-Knicks game. But I think Halliburton in MSG, man, he needs to be able to play under the big lights. Zoo, you've talked about this, man. He's comfortable in Indiana, man. He's comfortable playing there. He loves doing it, plays extremely well. But when the lights get a little bright, those are the games when he's struggled. So that's why, I mean, obviously you can argue any series that's 2-2, it's pivotal. They have to steal this game in New York. They have to, because they need to close it out at home, because I don't think he has 2 great performances in both Game 5 and Game 7, and they do need him to play well. So I think they need to cut their losses and try and win this in 6, man.
I think that's with Halliburton, you're seeing just the maturation of it being his first true playoff run. And to your point, it's whether it's in this game that he's playing right now, or if it goes to Game 7, he's going to have a big game in New York. So he needs to do that. Yep. I think with the Pacers, who was talking about, their style, the up and down style, that's just what they like to do. They want to get out and run. And the Knicks, for as many minutes as they play, that's not truly their style. And to me, I have a bigger theory with the coaching in the series. I love Rick Carlisle, even though, like you said, stop complaining. The whole sending 58. How many calls was it he sent to the I guess NBA office complaining? Yeah, and then it's you kind of already see it being set up. Refs are human, so we already kind of knew Game 3 was going to be theirs. But I still like him as a coach. I actually think he got a raw deal in Dallas, because I think he's the type of coach that Luka needs. We'll probably talk about that later. But I'm over Tom Thibodeau. I'm over it. I'm over him as a coach. I'm just over it. This whole theory of, hey, let's play all of our best players a bunch of minutes. I do understand it in the playoffs, because guess what? You're in the playoffs and you're trying to win. But this is a philosophy he has his entire career and his entire regular season. I think it's idiotic. Yeah. People are going to say, and listen, Josh Hart, I understand. I do not play for the New York Knicks. I'm not in the locker room. I'm not, watching film. I'm not at practice. I don't understand Tom Thibodeau as a person. I don't know him personally. But, he comes out and says, everybody who's saying that Tom Thibodeau, runs his players into the ground is idiotic. Okay, whatever. But I kind of got a little bit of facts on my side. Mitchell Robinson's gone for the year. People say it's a freak injury. Okay. Julius Randle's been gone since January. People say it's a freak injury. Jalen Brunson's now hobbled. His foot doesn't look right. He's trying his hardest. He's out. OG Anunoby has a hamstring injury. Most people with half a brain know hamstring injury comes from what? Overuse. That's not a coincidence. And you guys are Bulls fans. You saw him run Joakim Noah into the ground. Derrick Rose had a freak injury. But, I mean, Derrick Rose is playing a lot of minutes. Luol Deng could come on this podcast right now and talk about how many minutes he played. Kirk Heinrich probably another guy. Almost died. It's a pattern. It's a pattern with Tom Thibodeau. And to me, it speaks to, do you not want to develop your bench? Do you not want other guys that because I actually just said before this podcast, Tom Thibodeau, like I said, I don't know the guy, but he seems like a coach who, if you're in his corner, he's with you. But if you do one slight thing to piss him off, he's not gonna be with you. And it's kind of hard to get back in his good graces. And to me, that's not how the modern NBA is. It's just not. And there was even a poll last year that The Athletic did saying the players themselves said he was the coach they would least like to play for. What does that tell you? And one of the main reasons is because he plays a bunch of minutes. I don't understand what's wrong with developing your bench. Like, it's the same thing we're going to talk about probably with Denver later. Like, their bench is still trash. They're having moments and spurts, but you can kind of get away with that when you have Nikola Jokic, who's a Pantheon great, and you have Jamal Murray, who's a playoff player. The New York, I love Jalen Brunson, but he's not those guys. No. I would say he's better than Jamal Murray, but still, all these guys and all these minutes that they're playing, like Josh Hart is just an Iron Man. He's very fortunate that he's not injured. But this whole philosophy of playing your guys as much minutes as he does is catching up to him. And I don't think he's a coach that's going to be able to get your team to a championship. He'll get you wins, and that's what fans get tricked by. They're like, oh, we got so many wins. We're winning. We're like the Knicks. I get it. They're a competent franchise now. They're in the spotlight. But at what cost? All your players are injured. And you're probably about to get bounced by the Pacers. And if you make it to the next round, you're probably playing the Celtics, who might get you out of there in 5. So it's like, is it worth it? Are you ever going to be able to get to a championship? So I just think that philosophy is so flawed. So it's not about, like, I do think because I think if we all are sitting here on this podcast, we talk about the Knicks. If they were if they just had Mitchell and Julius healthy, we would be talking about them like this might be a team that's going to the finals.
Finals this year.
We would be thinking about that with Brunson healthy playing, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson being like all their guys healthy. Like we would be looking at them like, okay, they're a finals team, and we were talking like, I don't know if we were saying final, but we were saying like Eastern Conference Finals because of their health. But with that series, I'm not a fan of Tom Thibodeau. I'm over it. I'm kind of over him.
I want to add something to that point about Tom Thibodeau, man, because Josh Hart right now in the playoffs right now is playing like historically high minutes. The last man that played this many minutes in the playoffs was Jimmy Butler, second-year Jimmy Butler against the Miami Heat in the playoffs. And I'm looking at his box score right now. This is under Tom Thibodeau's leadership. Last game of the series, 48 minutes. No overtime. 48 minutes. Game before that, 46 minutes. He rested 2 minutes. Game before that, 48 minutes. Man, didn't take a break again. Okay, there's a little dip here in 31 minutes. Do you know why? Because they lost by like 30 points. So no reason. He didn't play the fourth quarter. And the game before that, Sean, guess how many minutes he played? The game 1. Guess how many minutes?
48.
48 minutes. So Jimmy Butler in a 5-game series in 3 of those games did not leave the court. I love Jimmy Butler, but
his internet, so that's enough.
Oh man,
not the rain.
We got him fired up.
Oh man, look at that.
Oh man,
I'll feed into that, man. Honestly, I still am surprised today how high of a level Jimmy Butler can play because of how he started. Now, to be fair, when he came out of the draft, right, he was 30th or something like that in the draft, and he was a defensive guy. He had to earn the respect, and he did that by simply playing hard, and that was all he did, right? But at the same time, it's how he got to where he is. So he might be a guy that credits Thibodeau, but on the other end, especially guys that are at least in the midway point of their career, you can't keep that sustainable. Maybe as a rookie and you do that your first 3 years, sure, you can probably handle that. But once you get to a certain point, those are the players that are voting in that poll saying, I don't want to play for Tom Thibodeau at 30 years old when he's asking me to, play 48 minutes. He's like, no, I'm trying to have a long season.
I like Miles McBride. Like he should have got more minutes. Like just to supplement Jalen Brunson. But I don't know. Like I mean, front offices like it because he does bring credibility to your team during the regular season, and he gets you to a point where you can make the playoffs. So I do understand that. But it's like, man, read the room. This is a new NBA.
A bit Mike McCarthy in him. He'll get you wins. But obviously, different coaching styles. I'm not saying they both run their players into the ground, but we've seen this with Doc Rivers too for same old reasons. You could argue Doc Rivers is not hard enough on his players, kind of the opposite of Tom Thibodeau. He's the players coach. He's the coach everyone wants to play for. Well, you have to find the happy medium, which are guys like Eric Spoelstra, right? We've talked about him. You could argue Rick Carlisle was like that as a coach, especially in his heyday down in Dallas. So I don't know if we want to shift to I want to talk about the Mavericks Thunder series.
We can. I know you got a little Luka angle. Go ahead.
Obviously both the series we just talked about and this one, man, completely flipped from 1 and 2 to 3 and 4. And the Mavs series is interesting because I thought Kyrie was going to be the pivotal player. Turns out it's PJ Washington. I did not expect that. I mean, the guy averaged like 12, 13 points a game in the regular season. He's stepped up immensely. But still yesterday, you look at game 4. I mean, they had that game in the bag. right? I think the Thunder, besides Shea, I don't think anybody had a good game. I have the stats up right here. I think Lou Dort and Jalen Williams, they combined for 9 of 33 shooting. All right. Where SGA dominates 14 of 27, 34, 8 boards and 5 assists. I mean, actually a perfect game. But man, Derek Jones Jr. being your most efficient scorer, that can't happen. I mean, he was 7 of 12. Honestly, if he's doing that, great. And PJ Washington, he had the highest point total, 7 of 19. I guess you can kind of live with that when he's helping you out from 3-point land. But man, Kyrie, 4 of 11. Luka, 6 of 20, 2 of 9 from 3. I will say the only positive I actually got out of this was Kyrie became a bit more of a point guard first in this game. And we haven't really seen that honestly in his career, maybe a little bit with the Brooklyn Nets when they were trying to figure things out. But his 9 assists, if they were hitting their shots, they easily win that game. I mean, Kyrie with 9 assists is pretty rare to see.
He had 11 assists, in 2 or 3. I can't remember.
I mean, he's been more pass first, and maybe that's what they need. But you can't be shooting. You have to be making your shots. And the difference in that game, at the end of the day, Thunder 23 of 24 from the line. Guess what the Mavs shot, man? 50% on the same number.
It wasn't great.
So, I mean, I know Luka's going to get the blame for the one that he missed on the front end to make it to tie the game up there at the end. And he was beating himself up on the bench about that. But you can't be in the NBA and having your team shooting 50%, not even college teams who do, on average, have lower percentages from the free throw line. They're still way above the 50% mark. So, look, this is going to be a grinded out series. Whoever's going to – they just need to have 2 players shoot above 50% on a slight amount of volume. Both teams, Thunder and Mavs. Because let's be honest, the Thunder didn't have a great game yesterday other than SGA. No. And they need one of those couple other guys to step up. Chet has done it in games past. Obviously, we have seen Kyrie have good games. But, man, I mentioned it before the pod. We got to have a little conversation about Luka and his shot choices. Because at some point, if you're off from 3, man, you got to move it on.
Stop to shooting them.
Especially when he's that big and dominant down low. Pause.
It's for sure, but I think it's kind of the same conversation we have with Jason Tatum. Like their team hasn't been challenged, but like Tatum takes a lot of these step back threes, and it's like he's not the greatest. Like it's kind of proof is in the pudding with Tatum and Luka a little bit, but like especially with Tatum, like dude, like you can't shoot the threes. Like stop shooting these threes. But like to your Luka point, he's so and we got Zoo back, but he's such yeah, we Luka to me has a weird case of like it's like it's a me syndrome. Like he has to be the loudest person in the room, like because he is the alpha on the team. But I think looking at him projecting, because we don't know how the series is going to turn out, but I just think him as a player, he's going to have to figure out how, because he has the highest usage in the league. Like he's the number one guy in terms of usage. He's going to have to learn how to play more of a team game. And that's not to say he's not a team player. But to your point about the conversation about Luka, like, yeah, he's shooting too many threes. But if he doesn't make it to a finals this year, we're going to start getting whispers about who is he really? Because Luka has been in the MVP conversation a lot. We do understand that. And the West has been loaded. But it's like, man, I've said this a couple times on the pod. It's not much difference between him and James Harden. It really ain't. It really ain't. It's not a lot. I think they're both elite scorers. Luka's probably a better playmaker, but James Harden is not off. And some people might argue me down and say James Harden is a better playmaker in his prime. James Harden is older now, and he's kind of on the backside. But they're both not athletic demons. They both take a lot of shots. James Harden is a better shooter than Luka, I feel like. I don't know what the percentage is saying, but I feel like he's a better shooter. And James, a lot of the conversation around him was, well, are you a team guy or are you just worried about getting stats? Because when he got to Houston, everybody thinks about when he was at OKC and he was kind of playing a 6-man role. And it was like, oh, hey, James Harden's coming off the bench. And he's like, everybody wants him on his team. But then when he went to Houston, he put up a lot of great stats. But and I think Luka's a better playoff performer than James Harden. Let's not get that confused. I'm not trying to make that comparison. I'm just saying as a player overall. Their game, they're high usage players, and I don't know where Luka can improve. Now, people are saying his knee is messed up, and he does look a little hobbled, but
he's gimpy.
It just And Luka, let's keep it kind of a buck. Like, Luka's not like a fitness demon either.
No.
Like, I'm not saying he's always injured, but he's like, his game is predicated around being physical. Like him, decelerating and putting his shoulder into you and getting and ones. Like, that's his game. So I will see, like, if he gets to finals and wins it, then it doesn't matter. It's a moot point. But I am interested to your point when you said about we had to have a conversation about Luka. I think his usage needs to come down a little bit because that's probably another reason why he's wearing down in the playoffs. His usage needs to come down. He's got Kyrie. He's got other guys like we saw. Derrick Jones is not going to do that every game. But, I mean, you saw P.J. Washington is having a decent series. You got other guys on the team that are better. And Derek Lively is going to get better and be more of a force in the middle. But, I don't know. I'm interested to see, regardless of how this series turns out, how Luka can kind of turn it down. Because, I know he missed, like you said, he missed the free throw, but
bad man.
They should have won the game because they, like you said, the free throw disparity was
50% as a team.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That's unacceptable in the NBA, man. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, there was a reason they were hecka lively a couple games ago. Like this
he made some free throws.
Yeah, he made some free throws. This Mavericks team, that's inexcusable, man. Inexcusable. But I gotta shout out PJ Washington. Because PJ Washington right now is playing that third guy right now, and he's pretty much PJ, you're gonna defend, you're gonna rebound, and you're gonna hit open threes. And all this guy has done is put up multiple 20-point games in the playoffs. And he is the leading guy on offense right now. Like Luka Doncic, this series has been horrific. He's been horrific. Like it's just no words.
Can't make a shot.
Shout out Lou Dort, man. Shout out
Lou Dort. Yeah, I remember Luka Doncic said before the series that Lou Dort was one of the best, like top 3 defensive players, defensive wing guys in the entire NBA, and he's making Luka's life miserable. Because first of all, Luka Doncic, that 3-point shot is broken right now. Like when you're shooting 20% from the 3-point line, and Luka does a lot of those step backs and a lot of heat checks. This guy heat checking nothing right now because Luka Doncic can't hit threes right now. And Kyrie Irving, his sidekick right now, he's more like he's like his mindset. Kyrie Irving right now is more of like a playmaker right now. But maybe Kyrie Irving to score. Yeah, he's very pass first right now. Kyrie Irving, which is actually good too because Kyrie Irving's still doing other stuff. He's like playing defense, play more like I would say more of a role player role right now, like playing defense, hitting open shots, and be a playmaker for their team, and not being that Kyrie Irving 27-point bucket getter that we all know what Kyrie Irving's like mindset is. So he's doing that role right now. But with Luka Doncic struggles on offense and SGA's ability to go ISO and just absolutely eradicate this Dallas defense, even though this defense right now in the paint, they control the paint with Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford. These guys are rim protectors, former Chicago Bull. Daniel Gafford, we traded away for Troy Brown Jr.
He's a good big, man.
Daniel Gafford is very good on defense. This guy's a rim protector and is a great rebounder and a great rim runner. So they are playing their roles to the T. And like right now, Dallas's role players have stepped up. Like Derrick Jones Jr., he is defending. He's catching lobs. He's hitting open corner threes. Like the role players are not the reason the Dallas Mavericks are 2-2.
No.
They should be 3-1. It's the stars that have not shown up for the Dallas Mavericks right now. Because Luka Doncic, man, I think next year, this is a pre-prediction, right? I think you're going to win an MVP next year. That's what I'm saying. I think you're going to win MVP next year. And you gotta play better than this. Because he's got to stop complaining to the refs. I still remember one play call. He had a left-handed layup and he missed it completely. He was complaining. The dude just airballed a layup, man. Like, Jesus Christ, what are you complaining about missing a layup? You missed that shot. You did not get fouled on that. And he's always looking for an excuse to the referees, which I don't like at all. Like, the referees obviously not going to be perfect, but bitching to the refs is just a weak move. You're just completely frustrated with yourself. And
that's what it is.
Yeah, we saw that missed free throw. You see him on the bench just going like this to himself, like, how did I miss that? Like, I don't know how you missed that. I don't know. You make that free throw. They gotta hit a shot to force the game. Freaking,
it would have been time
overtime. Yeah. Or if you miss it, they go to overtime. But I'm gonna say you choked at the free throw line, man. That was a bad miss. That was a bad miss.
You got Chet Holmgren on the road as a rookie, going down and hitting both.
Yeah, rookie.
You can't have that.
Boom. Chet Holmgren, man. I like Chet Holmgren. That dude, that guy plays like a vet right now because that guy does a little of everything. He's the modern day center that every NBA team wants. The stretch big that could rim protect and extremely athletic. So I'm extremely impressed with this Thunder team right now. I'm extremely impressed with SGA's performance.
Yes.
And pretty much this guy's like, I'm him right now because J-Dub, more like JL, man. That guy did nothing last game, man. Jalen Williams did absolutely nothing last game. And like Josh Giddey, man, that guy got a bench for like Aaron Wiggins. Like he just if you play that dude off ball, he is completely useless off ball.
Yeah.
He cannot shoot the ball. He can't shoot at all. He's just out there just like running around. Like he can't do much playing off ball. So he doesn't really fit with this OKC team that is built with defenders, length guys, and shooters around SGA. So like the Thunder legit, they stole one. The Mavericks couldn't close the deal, and the superstars were the reason why. Because SGA showed up coming back because he was just going 1-on-5. Like he's just going ISO every single play. And Luka and Kyrie, I was just watching. I'm just like, these guys just ain't getting buckets right now for their team right now. And at home, it was a terrible loss because if they were up 3-1, I'm like, okay, they're going to close the deal 5 in 6 or 7 games. Like, there's no way they blow a 3-1 lead. But now 2-2, I would have to say OKC has now commanded the series now going back home and with SGA balling out like that. So
I got the Mavericks still.
I picked the Mavericks in the beginning of the series in 7 games.
I got Thunder.
I had the Mavericks in 7, but I did not expect Luka Doncic to look like this. Because I want 32-point Luka Doncic with 10 rebounds and potentially a triple-double every other night.
Efficiently, Zoo.
Yeah. I like shoot like 45, 46, 47%. Like I'm not asking for much, but you're right now is just a shell of yourself, and you're getting outplayed by the MVP counterpart that you wanted. And Dallas Mavericks Nation, we're telling you to be MVP right now. You ain't playing like an MVP right now. You're having the worst playoff series of your entire career right now because that's what's happening.
I just think I trust Kyrie and Luka has to play better, but I just think if like say Dallas gets the next game and then it does go to Game 7 because OKC goes on the road to beat them, I just trust Kyrie in a Game 7 or 6 where it's like it's crunch time because Kyrie has had some clutch moments in this series, and even though his game wasn't as good the last one, the Game 3 where he hit those like 3 shots in a row just shows OKC, as much as I love Shea, he's a dog, but like J-Dub, as the number 2, I'm taking Kyrie over J-Dub and Chet. I'm just, and when it comes to scoring in bunches and just taking over a game, I'm taking them too. Like Shea's going to be a guy too, though. Listen, you're going to have to deal with him, and if it's crunch time, I'm getting to the point where I'm trusting him too. But that's with the understanding that Luka somehow gets out of this funk because this whole playoffs he hasn't been good.
He hasn't been there.
He just hasn't. He's living off his name. So, speaking of playoff teams who hadn't been good, I think we can switch to the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. Like, let me tell you about freaking the Minnesota Timberwolves. What I was like, I said I was nervous about. I said the Game 3 makes me nervous because you are up 2-0. And you go into Game 3 thinking like, we can just let this go. Like we know Denver's going to give us our best shot. Doesn't matter. We're going to come back in Game 4. Well, this is what happens. Like you just cannot give life to any sort of champion. And this is not a basketball thing. Basketball, football, soccer, baseball, doesn't matter. If they have won a championship, you cannot give them life. They're like the trends and the stuff we talk about, like, this. Only these certain amount of teams have come back from this amount of deficit of 2-0 or 2-1, 3 or whatever. LeBron was a perfect example of that. Like LeBron's a 101. Like he was down 3-1, but guess what? He's a different dude. So like he was one of the first players to do that. Same thing with that. Or Denver right now we're saying they went down 2-0 at home, but Minnesota kind of had a regression to the mean. They kind of had a regression to the mean. Like they had not lost a game all series. That was one thing I didn't really think of, which I was thinking, like, I was in my head, I was thinking they're going to lose Game 3. But the thing that concerned me the most about them, and I'm going to hand it to you guys, was, Anthony Edwards.
Stud.
Come on. Like, dude,
Stud.
It's to a point where you just know you're comfortable saying, like, okay, you know what? We know what he's going to do. He's going to show up. He's going to make good shots. He's going to get to the line. That's what he's going to do. But what concerned me was Cat. Yeah. We already know what Gobert's doing. We already know he's not an offensive threat. Like when Mike Conley threw that lob to him, I was like, what the hell? Like that just never happens. Like they always just kind of look off Gobert. So when Conley threw that little lob, I was like, oh, okay, Gobert got a little lob action where he can make some dunks. But I wrote down like I kind of wonder with Cat, like he's had 2 kind of okay games. He's due. But I don't want to. I can't just sit there and be like, yeah, that breakout game's coming because I don't know. He has the tendency to kind of fall into that number 2 role, which has been a blessing because Ant has now overtaken the number 1 role. But you still kind of want the guy who was the leader of the team before Ant got there to show like, hey, I have the capability of doing that. Because outside of Cat, I mean, I like McDaniels. I like Kyle Anderson. I like the roles on the team. Like I like Naz Reid. But they're not go-to scorers. They're not guys that can go give the ball to them, go get a bucket. They're 3-and-D guys. So that's what makes me nervous because now I'm looking at Ant. It's like, well, maybe in that last game you should have took 30 shots instead of 25 or 26. Well, it might have to get to a point where he needs to take 30 shots and just because you're gonna have to kill Denver. You're gonna have to kill him. So that means you got to average 40 to 45. Ant-Man, sorry, bro, we're gonna have to go do it because that's the only way you're gonna beat Denver unless Cat comes out and goes 5 for 8 from 3 and has 25, 30 points, which right now is tough for me to see that happening.
What I was gonna say, man, this T-Wolves team lives and dies with Cat, not Ant. Ant can keep this team alive, but if they win or they lose, it depends on how Cat plays, and especially first quarter Cat. I mean, I talked about this last week, man. He is a confidence player through and through. We've seen the ups of the confidence, and now we've seen the downs of it. I would say game 3, they were so blown out. You actually look at their percentages. The Timberwolves actually shot pretty well. They just had so many turnovers, a lot of just bad passes, getting the ball stolen, throwing it out of bounds. I mean, it was just an ugly game that they went down early.
I was scared they was going to do that, yeah.
Yeah, but in game 4, man, you're talking about Cat starting 0 for 7. 0 for 7. I mean,
no confidence now.
No confidence. And look, you could argue to your point, Sean, that could have been 4, maybe if half of them could have been more shots for Ant and the way he was playing in that game. It was an 8-point game in the end. You're talking a little bit closer of an ending. Or Cat hits those shots. He's playing well the rest of the game. I mean, I personally, I think he's going to drop 20 tonight. Don't bet on that. Don't do anything. I'm not advising.
You got to bet on that or something?
I do personally, but I ain't advising anybody else to do that. But to your point, I mean, one, he actually did play better in Denver than he did at home, which is the opposite of most players on the home away front. And I just think to your point, Sean, he knows his role, and as much as he has struggled the past 2 games, I think it's when he gets in his own head. And it's 2-2, man. It's 0-0 best of 3 at this point. So you have to completely clear your head entering into this game in Denver tonight and just hope you play well, man. I think he's going to have to get it going, hit a 3 early on because, man, if he starts missing those, this team's done for. I mean, if he doesn't have a big game tonight, even if Ant drops 40, they're not winning this game because Jokic is on. Jamal Murray's been on. The only guy who actually has faltered a little bit is MPJ. He did not have a great game 4.
Yeah, he's not
sure. But Aaron Gordon has stepped up and filled the role. Yeah. So that's the thing is they got 4 guys.
That's fool's gold. I'm sorry. That's freaking. Aaron Gordon. He's annoying. He is just not that shooting like. If Aaron Gordon is going to be going for the last 5 or 6 from 3 for the last 2 games, then just give Denver the championship. Because dude, get out of here with Aaron Gordon. I think Ant-Man said something like, "I'm sick of Aaron Gordon." I am too. That's not who you are. Stop. Like Jokic. Pantheon, great. Jamal Murray, we know what he does. But Aaron Gordon going 5 for get out of here. Go ahead, Zoo.
I'm going to put out a stat out there. Aaron Gordon in this playoff series right now is shooting 67% from 3.
Get out of here,
67% from the free. No, there's more to it. From the field, he is shooting 72% right now. So his splits are right now 72 and 67 from 3. His worst split is his free throws, where he's shooting 62%. So he's shooting better from 3 in the field than his free throw. So obviously, this is unsustainable. And Aaron Gordon had a couple shot clock going down, just jack it up, and he still he was on. I was just like, Aaron Gordon, Aaron Gordon.
He has one of those games every series.
Yeah, he's a lob. Yeah, he's a lob threat. Like he's not a shooter. Like my game plan for Minnesota is leave Aaron Gordon wide open for 3. Okay, Josh Hart's a better shooter. Josh Hart's a better shooter.
He is a better shooter.
Yeah, he's a much better shooter than Aaron Gordon. So Aaron Gordon definitely is playing out his Ryan right now. But as I mentioned before, it's just the battle of the superstars right now. Because last game, Ant-Man showed up, man. Because right now, Anthony Edwards, he has landed one off game right now with the 19 points in game 3. But his other games have all been virtuosos, man. Because this dude is an elite company of averaging in the playoffs 28 points per game while shooting 50%. Like
DeMar
this dude,
DeRozan-esque, man.
he is efficient. I love DeMar, but he ain't no Ant-Man.
Efficiency-wise.
Yeah, efficiency-wise. Because Ant-Man right now, he's showing, as you said, cat. You know why he's called a cat? Because the cats are beta, man. It's a beta animal. It's an alpha dog, man. He's an alpha wolf. Because when that guy woof, yeah, I follow, man. Cat out there was giggling, laughing. Nah, cat's a beta. He's a beta guy, and he's a beta on this team, and he's going to come and go because he's not going to be the guy that shows up every night. That is going to be Anthony Edwards. And in game 4, wasting that Anthony Edwards performance because his teammates didn't show up for him is extremely disappointing because there's not much because Ant-Man's 3-point shot. That's one thing he's made a huge step in.
Pure.
His step back threes, his just get the ball hand in the face, just pull up. His pull-up 3 game has been like we see. This guy's been putting work in the summer, especially like post-Olympic. That post-Olympic transfer, that Team USA transformation, that's a real thing. Kevin, to compete against the elite guys in the NBA and USA FIBA competition is a huge factor in a guy's career growth, and his leap is not a mistake from that. There's no mistaking why this guy is taking that leap right now. And right now, Anthony Edwards, you can be even saying that Anthony Edwards is having a better series than Nikola Jokic because Nikola Jokic had that one game where he was just one of the worst playoff games I've seen.
Game 2.
That was terrible. That was awful.
Even his 19-point performance, I think he was still 8 for 15. Right, so he just wasn't getting any volume because he kept turning it over, poor possession.
Well, he is going against Gobert. I mean, he is going against Gobert.
True.
Gobert is
so I'm talking like the efficiency wise, like Anthony Edwards in the series is shooting 61% from the field. 61%. He's shooting 44% from 3 and 81 from the line. So right now, KCP cooking him, just absolutely cooking him. And I think KCP is a good defender, especially in the pass lanes. He's a very good at ball disruptor. But right now, one-on-one, Anthony Edwards is too strong for KCP. And for Aaron Gordon, Anthony Edwards is too fast for Aaron Gordon. So right now, he's just an absolute mismatch right now. Obviously, I love Jamal Murray in offense. Good luck guarding Anthony Edwards right now because there's different levels to this right now. And Anthony Edwards is really showing that he's that alpha. This guy's the best shooting guard in the NBA right now. I don't think there's no debate anymore. Right now, it used to be Devin Booker, but after Devin Booker wet his bed in another playoff series again, having multiple bad games, getting swept like that, Devin Booker, I'm sorry.
Anthony's the starter for Team USA. I saw that conversation. People was like, well, who should be? No, Anthony Edwards is the starting shooting guard. What are we talking about?
No question.
This guy's the alpha. This guy
is seniority.
No seniority. This guy 22, and he's playing like an MVP right now because this is a phenomenal performance. But as I said, man, when the Nuggets were down 2-0, I wasn't worried, man. I would have been worried if it went down 3-0. Okay, I'm like, okay, I'll put up the white flag. But 2-0 is nothing. This is a team, I always have to say that this is a team that come back 3-1 in the same playoff run. This team just has an extreme amount of fight in them. And right now, Jamal Murray, I know he has that hammy injury, but it's not like they're missing a major player in their starting lineup right now. So I can't even blame injuries for them going down 0-2. They just need a freaking just play better. And Jokic, I love Jokic. That game 2 was atrocity. Even game 1, his points were a little fool's gold. I didn't think he played that well because of the turnovers. But that domination in game 4, that is some alpha performance because you could just see his mindset change from shot attempts. When Jokic, because that's a mindset thing. Joker could probably do that pretty much every game, taking that many shots a game. And I'm trusting that guy shooting over any other guy on that roster. And this dude, I don't know, you saw that play against Rudy Gobert and Cat, he freaking does a little fade to the left, does a little pump fake, jump in the air, passes to Aaron Gordon. That pass was phenomenal. Dude, Nikola Jokic's package is so dirty. I'm telling you, after Shaquille O'Neal, after the MVP announcement, and Shaq was like, "Oh, SGA was my MVP." No disrespect, man. Jokic's been on a tear ever since that, man. He's been on an absolute tear because Nikola Jokic. I'm telling you, this is the best big man we've seen since Shaquille O'Neal. Like
Correct.
Shaquille O'Neal dominated the 2000s. The 2020s has been Nikola Jokic's era, and this dude, and that even defensively, he's getting a lot of steals per game right now. He's like, I think got 3 steals his last game. And I don't know if you guys remember this play when Rudy Gobert tried to post up, which is always funny. Man, Nikola Jokic, hold the chair, boy. Hold the chair. He starts stumbling. It's like, oh, it's like, okay, there's the Rudy Gobert on offense. This is why we make fun of Rudy Gobert.
He shouldn't be
offensively, he is very, very limited player. So I got to shout out Nikola Jokic, not only for the offensive domination, but the smart that he got on the defensive end and forcing steals and pushing the break. So Nikola Jokic right now playing like an MVP that he deserved this year. So I'm really excited because this game 5, man. Oh, this is the series starter, man.
Big game tonight.
If Jokic get game 5, it's over. I'm telling you, it's over. It's over.
I kind of think this game is going. Whoever wins game 5, I think it's going 7. I just did.
I think it's going 7.
Okay.
I think it's going 7 because I think part of the reason why it's going 7 is because Aaron Gordon's going to have regression to the mean. He's not going to continue to shoot like that.
It's unsustainable. He shot 11 for 12, man. It's unsustainable.
If you think about it, if you take half of what Aaron Gordon was doing in points, like Minnesota might win game 4. Like Aaron Gordon doing what he did kind of shifted it because Jamal Murray had an okay game. Nikola Jokic had a good game. But I mean, it's like Ant still put up 44. And like to your point, if Cat makes 2 threes and Aaron Gordon has half of his points, I think Minnesota ends up winning that game. So I just think these are 2 evenly matched teams. And I am curious to see who outside of Minnesota, not Minnesota, but Ant-Man and Cat can step up. Like maybe Naz Reid has a big game.
Naz Reid.
Maybe Jonathan Daniels can make some corner threes. But they're gonna need some guys to step up and make some shots because Ant-Man taking all these, I guess you could say threes, and he does have a lot of high percentage shots. I just don't think that's sustainable in terms of them getting out of this series because you're gonna need more than just him going crazy. So it's interesting. I'm interested to see what happens in that series. Like I said, man, I'm not gonna be shocked if any of these series go 7 or any except for the Boston and Cleveland series. But I think all these series could go 7, and that's what I'm rooting for because it's more basketball. It's more basketball. So speaking about basketball and shifting towards the future, the draft lottery was Sunday. It was I was telling the guys, maybe I did get notifications about it, but I just didn't realize it was happening. So, the Atlanta Hawks ended up with the number 1 pick. A lot of people, and I'm interested to kind of see the narrative change. Like, because right now everybody's saying this draft sucks. But I just feel like right when, I don't know when the draft is, but 2 to 3 days before or maybe a week before, you're going to start hearing like, oh, well, these guys got so much potential. And the narrative's going to shift to like, oh, this draft is actually better than what we think it is. I think that's just what we do to sell, like I said, probably to sell ads or get people to drum up interest in it. But I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts. I mean, I know it's probably coming from a Bulls perspective because they, what did they get? 11?
11.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Get your thoughts on what you think the Bulls could potentially do or what you want them to do with that pick. People, Sue, whoever.
Oh, man, all I got to start out is this draft is kind of tough because a lot of these guys are international, so a lot less like visibility from us in America right now. So like they say that maybe 3 of the top 5 might be foreign players right now because obviously the NCAA didn't really produce that much. And like when I see they got the UConn center as a top 3 pick, Klingon. Like I love Klingon. I remember I was really high on Klingon, but that's the definition of a role player, man. Like if you got Donovan Klingon going the top 5 or even like the top 10, I'm sorry, that's not a good draft, man. Because like his prototype is that Walker Kessler prototype. And Walker Kessler in that draft went in the 20s, and Donovan Klingon, they say this guy. Some people put it out there. Oh, it might be the number 3 pick. I was like, okay, that is a problem if that is true.
That's not good. Yeah.
That is a problem. So I'm just like looking at these guys. Like the only guy that I'm pretty interested in is Rob Dillingham. Like Rob Dillingham is one of those small, explosive Kentucky. I'm going straight off of pedigree, man. Kentucky guards produce. They produce like the hit rate, especially in the first round in the lottery. Like I could probably only imagine like one, like in my top of my head, I can't imagine like a single I would classify as a bust from the
Tyreek Evans.
And I don't even know.
He was Memphis.
He was
that
Memphis. And Calipari. Yeah,
the Harrison twins, what were they? Were they late first round?
They were not
a second rounder. No. So, like, as guards go. Who?
Marcus Teague.
Yeah, that's another one. Yeah, Teague. I forgot about Teague. He was late first round.
We're talking about lottery now. We ain't talking about the Bulls.
Okay, touche.
Yeah, let's talk about lottery. So there's a little more meat on the bone. But Rob Dillingham, I feel like this guy's the definition of a shot maker. But the only thing that holds this dude back is guy's 6'3", and I don't know if he's 6'3", and that 175. He's an extremely tiny guard. And when you're that small, your talent needs to be this much higher. Like, needs to be even higher than the guys in the day just to compensate for the lack of size. But I feel like for him, man, the perfect fit is a guy like Victor Wembanyama with the San Antonio Spurs. And the San Antonio Spurs got 2 draft picks in the top 10 right now. And they need to get a guy, especially a point guard, for him to pretty much get him the freaking ball. Because there was a couple of plays I remember watching San Antonio games where the guards just would not get Wembanyama the ball. Like, Wembanyama in his second year can easily average 25, 26 a game as a 20-year-old easily. And just because of based off shot attempts and minutes right now, and his teammates getting him the ball in spots on offense. And I feel like they need get a guy like a Dillingham that can complement Wembanyama and let these guys grow together. And with Dillingham's lack of defense, Wembanyama, the freaking Eclipse, can cover them on defense. So you don't need elite perimeter guys because Wemby could just cancel. The great eraser just cancel out bad defense. So a guy like Wembanyama and Dillingham, I feel like that's a terrific fit. So he's probably the most exciting guard, especially in collegiate basketball that I'm looking at. And another guy is Cody Williams, who's the brother of J-Dub, Jalen Williams. So that's just a brother lineage thing, man. It's like you guys got the same bloodline and you're a projected top 10 pick. If you have the same mindset like your brother, man, you're going to be good in this league. So those are the 2 guys that I have an eye on this draft. But outside of that, there's a lot of European players that I'm not
familiar.
How these guys will turn out to be.
And I think Zoo, a lot of them are Frenchmen too.
Yep.
You wonder. I do because I did want to shout out Rob Dillingham because he was the one guy that I remember watching play and being like, okay, this guy looks like he could be a solid NBA player.
50.
But you're looking at kind of the top. First of all, man, Detroit Pistons, man, they can't catch a break.
They don't deserve a break. No. They don't deserve a break, man.
They don't deserve a break.
It's a badly run franchise.
Them and Portland got screwed as well.
They openly tanked. So I'm happy that a non-taking team was able to get the number 1 overall pick in Atlanta.
There you go.
And Houston Rockets jumped in, and they actually tried this year. So
Houston Rockets jumped in, they tried, and they do have 2 picks. I think one of them actually goes back to the Thunder, of course. Sam Presti with his genius, man. He'll probably take a solid role player. I think they might be 12th.
They're right behind the Chicago Bulls. Watch that pick hit, and the Bulls miss. It'll just be freaking obvious, man.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, I mean, I did want to shout out that I think the Spurs, this is the most pivotal team for this draft. It's not a very strong draft, but they're not going to go for a guy like Klingon. If he is top 3, Zoo, you'd probably suspect that a team like, I don't even know if Houston would take him. I mean, you're looking, who's got number 2? Is it the Hornets?
No, it's Washington.
Is Washington. No, Washington might be dumb enough to take a second overall pick.
Pair with Jordan Poole, yeah.
Yeah, and that's no hate on Klingon because, one, I do think we can all agree he was a good player in college, and he deserves to enter into the draft. But he's more of a 9 to 12 probably would be a better area.
Backup center. Yeah, backup center that plays defense. That's his role.
Exactly. So I think San Antonio does have to be the team that finds the diamond in the rough there at 4, and maybe Dillingham is that guy because they need to get Wembanyama going right now. He needs help, but he's also young, and with a guy with his size, who knows if longevity is going to be on his side for his entire career because we know all these guys that were in that height, the Yao Mings of the world, man. I mean, you could go all the way back to Manute Bol. I know he wasn't a great player, but he was still a very large specimen, tall and lanky. Foot issues, man, ankle issues. They come up heavily with these guys. And with a guy that relies on his explosiveness for his height, Wembanyama, they need to take advantage of him while he's on his rookie deal. And even if they do obviously offer his extension, they have probably about a 7 to 8 year window where he is at the prime of his career with no injury issues. So I think they have to take advantage as they are still in a top 5 draft situation. And maybe Dillingham is that guy. But yeah, I was actually just more surprised and found it funny of the teams that kind of got screwed in this draft, even with Zoo, the top 3 having the same percentages at this with all the draft changes the past couple of years.
I want to shout out one team that got screwed, and it's openly hilarious, and it's the Toronto Raptors. The Toronto Raptors openly tanked and blew up their roster because they wanted to keep their pick. It was a certain top protection from the San Antonio Spurs, but since the Raptors missed the protection, they lost their pick to the San Antonio Spurs. So that tanking in the back end of the year backfired for the Toronto Raptors, which is karma because I think tanking is tanking is just a bad thing to do. Some franchises need to do it, and it works out for some franchises, aka the San Antonio Spurs. Like the Spurs. They're the best tanking team in the history of tanking.
They're the only good one.
David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and Victor Wembanyama. Like that's what happens when they tank for 1 year.
I wonder why, but we'll leave that to another discussion on a different pod. San Antonio just always seems to. They just seem to always just get the most dominant big man. I wonder why on that. But anyways, one thing I thought about with the draft.
For all the big old women, Sean. It's for all the big old women, man.
Yeah, big old woman in San Antonio eating all them churros or whatever. But listen, man, the first thing I thought of was Trae Young when I saw Atlanta Hawks get the pick because there's been so much conversation about the Atlanta Hawks. And I'm thinking, like, what is their move going to be? Because this draft, for right now, is considered to be historically bad. So as a franchise, what are you willing to do? Because this Trae Young experiment isn't brand new. Like it's been a few good years with the Atlanta Hawks with Trae Young. They've had some moments in the playoffs. But they got the Eastern Conference Finals. But you're kind of seeing the tea leaves of like, I saw the other day Trae Young end up leaving Clutch Sports. So I'm thinking to myself,
I was about to say that.
I wonder what's up with that. What's up with that? Like, is that kind of basically signaling that the Lakers are out of it? It looks like it is to me. So now I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe there's some, he's CAA, but and they represent a lot of players, so that doesn't mean anything. But I'm wondering to myself, like, is this kind of just the prelude to him eventually getting traded? And I'm thinking about fits for Trae Young, and the first team that came to mind was the Orlando Magic. I think he would be the perfect team for Orlando because what is the one thing that they needed in the playoffs?
I did not expect that.
But think about that Cleveland series. What was like the glaring part of that Cleveland series for me? Like I would just go ahead and say,
shoot outside. They couldn't shoot outside.
Like Wagner could not make any type of outside shot. Paolo can make a 3-point shot, but that's not his game.
Not consistent.
Jalen Suggs is a defensive guard. Cole Anthony is a nice microwave player off the bench. It can get hot, but he's not a starter. No. Jonathan Isaac's defensive guy. Wendell Carter, all that. Wendell Carter actually shot crazy. I think in that. I don't know if it was Game 5 or Game 7. Like he actually was making some threes. Yeah, he was going crazy, but that's not who he is. So I was thinking to myself, like, it's Paolo's team, and the only thing that would concern me is that struggle of whose team is it. But if Atlanta could somehow package a deal, like if I'm Atlanta, I'm probably asking for Wagner, probably going to want Isaac, probably going to want some picks, which I think Orlando has. But like, if there's something to where, because Wagner, I think he's a bad shooter right now, but I think he can maybe get back right to being a decent shooter. And I like his playmaking skills and his overall as a player. I like him a lot. Like he's definitely their second best player in Orlando. But if I can get him like a defensive guy with Jonathan Isaac, I don't know, maybe throwing Cole Anthony. I'm not giving up Jalen Suggs, but like if I can get some of those guys, another guy, whatever, and some picks, like a lot of picks, and then you say, all right, you can have Trae, and we'll figure out maybe to shop our number 1 pick, or we may just keep it and take, the future, whoever that may be. I think I'm willing to do that. And if I'm Trae, I'm angling to get there because that's what I think they're like. I was saying Paul George a couple weeks ago. I was thinking like he would be a perfect guy because he's a playmaking wing who can shoot and can score. But if you tell me you can get Trae Young as a playmaker along with Paolo, who he dominates the ball, but I think he could be better suited to be with a guy like Trae Young, who's a underrated passer. Nobody talks about his passing because they see all the long threes he makes, but he can pass the ball. And getting Paolo on cuts and, having other guys. And they did draft a guy last year from Michigan. Names escape me, but he was a shooter. Maybe he comes up through the ranks of G League. They're a team, like, I'm huge on Orlando. And I think they're a team that, at least a young team who can grow with a guy like Trae. So that's the first thing I went to was like Trae Young being on the trading block. Because I think his time has expired. Because it kind of looks like Atlanta is trending toward DeJounte. Like, not saying DeJounte is a player of Trae, But it's just like sometimes you just wear out your welcome in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I just think it's kind of
over. I did not expect that. I did not expect Orlando because Trae Young is like kind of the anti-Orlando prototype player because all Orlando does is draft long dudes that are focused on defense, that are extremely athletic, and pretty much they're trying to rock out 6'5" and taller guys in the entire starting lineup. Because they're all about length.
Little Thunders,
yeah, a little Thunder, a little.
That's why I say you can't get rid of Suggs.
Milwaukee Bucks.
Can't get rid of him.
Exactly. So I'm not sure if the GM would want to Trae Young just because of that, because I think that's just their mindset of getting pretty much the Milwaukee method of getting these long, lanky guys on defense, extremely athletic, and trying to use that as a defensive nightmare, aka something like the Timberwolves that could disrupt elite offenses. So I'm not sure Orlando would make that trade because in my mind, I thought you were going to say San Antonio.
I don't know.
I don't know. They have the assets.
Oh, San Antonio has the assets. They have all their draft picks, and they got a couple of young players that they could trade, like a Calendar Johnson, as well as they could package some other.
I think he would stunt Wembanyama's growth. I think he would. Yeah,
really. Because one thing Trae Young, like I love Trae Young.
He's
James
a good passer, but
they're elite lob passers, and Wembanyama would thrive in a high pick and roll with a guy like a Trae Young who will not miss Wemby on looks. So I feel like because Trae Young, I don't want Trae Young to be.
Do you think he could handle being the second fiddle though?
Yes. Yes, I absolutely.
I think in Orlando,
not with another guard. That's why. That's where I think he has an issue. Ball handling. I think Wemby he'd be better than DeJounte.
I think it's the thing that, and if you just listen to reports, like the thing that was kind of becoming a little bit of an issue with DeJounte and Trae is the struggle of the team. Because remember that streak where DeJounte was making all those game winners, and you kind of to see the body language of Trae, like he kind of was a little bit on the I'm excited for you, and I'm not trying to cast this aspersion like he's a bad player or a bad teammate, but I think in Orlando they're still young enough to where Paolo, he obviously is growing into becoming the star, but I still think if Trae were to go there, Trae would be like they would be able to mesh because I think it would be understood that Trae, because Trae has, I know a lot of people are down on Trae, but Trae has bona fide playoff moments. I think he's a really good player. And to me, same discussion we're having about Jalen Brunson right now. Like, it's hard when your guy is 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" as your leading player. But I think if you go to a team like Orlando, for instance, if they somehow in a miracle was able to still keep Jonathan Isaac and Jalen Suggs, like if you're able to still keep those guys, then you're keeping a big part of your core of like the length and athleticism. And then I don't know what their draft assets could be, but you could still draft around Trae and make it comfortable for him, because the one thing that's apparent is, as much as to your point, Zoo, about them being a long and athletic team, you can be that all you want to, but you saw what happened in that game 7. The difference was because Cleveland had Donovan Mitchell, a guy who can just say, get out of my way, I can go get a bucket. And as much as I love Paolo, I don't think he'll ever develop into a guy who's going to be like that. I think he'll be really, really good.
Really? Because
I think he's you think he's a 45 to 50 point scorer on random nights? I don't think he can go.
I think he'd be a 3-level scorer. He's a 6'10".
He's a 3-level scorer, but
yeah, exactly. I think he's 6'10" guard.
You think he can have a game like Ant and Donovan Mitchell can have in a playoff game? You think he can be that type of scorer?
When he hits his prime, probably age 25, because that guy's got a man's body. He's got a playoff body. Like
for sure.
Physicality
he's not a.
His jump shot is the one thing I want to continue to see develop. And when he develops that consistent 3-point shot, he could dominate out there. Because I think in the paint right now, this guy's already built for the paint. Because this dude's 6'10", 250, and he's quick. And he's got handles for a guy, because he's like a 6'10" guard.
Got to see the 3-point shot.
The 3-point shot needs development, and we'll see how long that takes. But whenever he gets that, I think he get in the playoffs, he could be like a 27, like a 28-point a guy night as the go-to guy in our offense, and he could be a playmaker.
Let me ask you this, Zoo, because we always talk about this guy he always chose money over winning.
Melo?
Do you think he has? I know he's one of the purest scorers we've ever seen, and Paolo might have more length, but you could argue a man's body right off the bat, physical in the mid-range, physical in the post. One of Melo's best moves was his post fadeaway jump shot from the mid-range. That's something that Paolo could learn and add if Paolo can develop the 3. I would argue that at his ceiling, his complete ceiling is Carmelo Anthony. I think
No,
that's his.
no. You know why? You know why? Because
Mm.
I think he's a way better passer already at this age.
Okay, sure. I'm talking about
he's a playmaker.
I think he has that ability. If he
scoring.
gets double teamed, he can make the right pass and make the right reads.
Sure.
Because
But we're talking about scoring, Zoo. Like we were talking about putting up 50 in a game. I think he could reach that, but I think it's a further reach at this point. But once again, it's so early on in his career that maybe if he had a guy like Trae Young, because if you take Trae Young and put him there, maybe it takes some relief off of him, and he can really just kind of focus on his own game and not worry about I have to carry this team every single night in and out.
And to your point about the playmaking with Paolo, that's another underrated part of his game. The same thing you talked about, Trae. I'm always in favor of multiple ball handlers and multiple playmakers on the team. And when you have a guy like Trae who can also be that multiple ball handler, playmaker, and you could, if Paolo's coming off a screen and whips it into the corner, Trae's probably going to make that corner three. I just think Trae has never played with a team like that because when he got to Atlanta, it's kind of been his show. Now, it is kind of a gamble because you're looking at it like, well, can Trae adapt? Like, you've never seen him in a position where you kind of got to maybe – because come playoff time, if Paolo keeps taking the progression, it's going to become more about it being Paolo's team because that's what wins in the playoffs. Big wings who can go score, get to the line, draw fouls, and defend. So Trae would have to be comfortable with understanding, like, listen, we know you've made big shots in the playoffs. You got to the Eastern Conference Finals. But when it comes to playoff time, if it's like who has the ball in his hand, like, I think you may need to give it to Paolo, especially if he's taking the progression. Now, Paolo's not progressing, then Trae can take over. But if Paolo makes the progression that we think he's going to make, it's going to be his team. So I just think him having another star. And Orlando has assets to kind of – you can maybe give away a couple – like say, I'm not high on Franz. I think he's a good player, but I'm not high on him.
In my mind, they have a very unique team having two 6'10" forward guys that can play perimeter basketball and be like a scorer and a playmaker. That is very unique for having two 6'10" dudes like that.
That's why I was high on them.
In my mind, like they put a very competitive series against the Cleveland Cavaliers right now. Like, they put up 7 games right now. Yep. And they just lost to Donovan Mitchell, who's a guy that's been proven in the playoffs. So there's no shame in that. So in my mind, I don't really want to break up this young nucleus and just continue to let these guys develop and wait for these guys to hit their prime to see, okay, this is what they can do at their peak and maybe make some additions after that. So I don't want to break up this core before that peak thing. We haven't seen this team at its best. This is the first step, that jump in the playoffs. Usually that first jump, you win 45 games, you barely make playoffs. You're that first round and out. But then that second year, you develop, get better chemistry, maybe have some nice veteran role players in that team, and then you might be able to hit 50 wins, and then you can really see what this team could do in the playoffs. So Orlando, if I'm the GM right now, good job on making this nice, unique roster. It's a very unique roster. You have the cornerstone, Paolo Banchero. Maybe Franz is the second option. Who knows right now? We're going to have to see some development. But if I'm Orlando, I'm going to stay firm and let this core develop because they've got a good thing coming. They have no bad contract on their books. All their guys are extremely young, no bad contracts, have all their draft picks, so they could make a big move in the future.
They could make a pick.
I'm going to wait on Trae Young because I don't think that risk is worth the upside of getting a Trae Young right now, especially next year. But if I'm the San Antonio Spurs right now, I need a point guard immediately for Victor Wembanyama right now. I cannot go another season seeing that guy playing with a bunch of scrubs and winning 20 games.
Jeremy Sohan being a point guard.
Jeremy Sohan. Oh, God. He was playing with a bunch of scrubs. They were openly tanking. Like, they were not trying to win. They were trying to see what their guys are. And they just all I learned is that team had a whole lot of nothing. Without Wembanyama, that's the worst team in the NBA. Like, Wembanyama, they got one of the brightest futures just because of one man. Wembanyama. So I'm like, okay, let's get a point guard that can get Wembanyama the ball and make him a better player immediately.
I just don't think Trae fits the culture. I just don't of San Antonio.
The culture,
I just don't see it.
The culture?
I just don't. I don't see it. I honestly, he's probably wouldn't be happy being in San Antonio. If you're telling me, like, I just came with the Orlando, like came up with the Orlando scenario, but it's like, a lot of his destinations were not teams like San Antonio. So, because I think Trae kind of also wants to because as much as Trae goes to San Antonio, I don't think they're like a Western Conference like finals representative.
I think they're a 40-win team immediately.
Yeah, but I don't think they do anything to playoffs because Wembanyama's too young, and it's like, and I say that, and Wembanyama could come out off like playing.
They would have the season that the Rockets had. They would have the season that the Rockets had this past year, man. They
were
hovering around 500.
Probably make the play-in or something, but
Yep.
Yeah, that's just what I thought of. And like you said, and just to real quick on the draft, just from my perspective, I know there's no stars, but how I look at it is if you're a team that's in a holding pattern or if you're a playoff contender, like this is a role player draft. Do your job. Find somebody who you know can come in and play immediately. Don't think about potential upside. Yeah. Go get a guy that can play.
Older guys.
Now, if you're a team like Washington and teams that are rebuilding, this might be tougher because you kind of want a guy that's a linchpin. So you're not going to find that. So I would probably advise those teams, if you really could get a deal for next year's draft, just maybe trade out of this draft. But if you're a team that's competing, like I think if you're like, I don't know, Lakers, Golden State, any of those like teams that are contending now, this is a really good draft because you can find you a role player who could get you over the hump or get you back into a better playoff contention, like Philadelphia, whoever has first round picks this year. Like you can find your role player, just go do your job and scout. Like not everything has to be about can this player be an all-star. Like these players in this draft are probably going to be solid 5 to 8 year NBA careers, like length of the career, and they may average 15 to 16 points. Yeah, maybe one time all-star may come out of the draft, but go do your job and scout and find the best fit for your team. Like I would almost, if I was a contending team, I would love this draft because like now I have the excuse as a GM to be like, hey, let me find a player that's like doesn't have high upside, but it's like you kind of point to your president or your owner and be like, look, I was looking for a guy who could start now. So you can probably find that in this draft.
Well, so all we can say, Sean, is let's just make sure no GM pulls an Atlanta Falcons and drafts Michael Penix, man, with the quarterback. So as long as you do that, I think whoever's ownership of all these top teams in the draft, they'll be fine with it, man. The teams know there's not going to be that pivotal star. So to your point, Sean, I think that's a great point. You still have to do your job, and you got to find a guy that can come in and at least give you minutes and give you, just don't get drafted by the Knicks. That's all I say, man, because whoever that is, they're gonna have a nice short.
Or trade out. Just trade out. If you don't like the draft, trade out and maybe package a player to get out and get in the next year's draft. So I don't know, but we'll see. I'm excited to see the I guess you would say the hoopla that's going to come with the draft because I know everybody's downplaying it now, but there's going to be some mock drafts that come out and they're going to be kind of looking to see what happens. So I'm interested to see and keep an eye on that while I'm also watching these playoffs and these series. So make sure you guys tune in to Tyson Talks _ on Instagram, YouTube, Quantro Knows, putting up videos, shorts, putting up videos on Instagram. Make sure you follow us on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We are on there every week. Make sure you give us a 5-star review so you can get into the algorithms. And for me, P. Bush, we are.